Hello and welcome to Talking Hoosier Baseball. We are recording this on Thursday, April 21st, 2022. I'm Carl James alongside Cassidy Palmer. Josh Bennett and Chris Feeney were not able to make it this evening. Cass and I will try not to be quite as long-winded as we were last week, but no guarantees.
No guarantees.
Unfortunately, the two of us can kind of get onto some tracks here. All right, the Hoosiers had a 1-4 week since we've last talked, and it was an interesting weekend at Big Ten leader Rutgers in Piscataway, New Jersey. The most interesting thing being that the Hoosiers were leading going into the bottom of the eighth of all three games and ended up losing all three and getting swept in the series. Then the Hoosiers had two games in the greater Cincinnati area, dropped the first one against Miami of Ohio 7-9, but then at least ended on a positive note with a pretty loud victory, 11-4 at Cincinnati. So the Hoosiers are now 14-22 on the season, dropped to 2-7 in the Big Ten. I'll get into the Big Ten piece of this a little bit later, but that's the result piece of this. There is two things I'd like to point out right off the bat from a result perspective that's also interesting, which is that Indiana's run differential for that 1-4 stretch was a +1, and Indiana's hit differential was also a +1. So I know Cass is going to have a few more detailed things. So Cass, what do you got for us?
Well, I kind of looked at the pitching a little closer over this weekend plus, and because I was fascinated by the guys we saw kind of situationally and particularly the young guys. And so I took a closer look at the stat lines. You've got Grant Holderfield, who pitched 3 innings. He did give up 5 hits, but only 1 earned run, which anytime you're talking about a freshman, particularly with him being in high leverage situations, fantastic. Reese Sharp, he went 5 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 5 earned runs. All 5 of those runs were off of home runs, 3 solos and a 2-run, and he threw 2 2/3 scoreless. Like, he, outside of being a little overextended at times, he was on for large chunks of time. Meduno, he was phenomenal at Rutgers. He had the 4 innings pitched, 2 hits, no earned runs at home. He's a New Jersey boy. But then at Miami, Ohio, 1 inning and 7 hits and 7 earned runs. So we're seeing when Meduno's on, he is on, and he's very difficult to hit. He's very difficult to generate anything off of. But when he's not on, it can get rough pretty quickly. Ty Bothwell kind of led the relieving crew at 7 innings, 4 hits, 4 earned runs. 2 of those were solo shot home runs, and then he had a bunt single and a walk that came in to score. Nothing was hit outside of those home runs. Nothing was hit particularly hard. Opponents weren't able to string together much of anything off of him. He threw 4 scoreless out of 7 innings pitched. I'll take that any day of the week from Ty.
Yeah. Well, and basically, if you look at it, it combines. It's a start essentially for the week.
Yeah.
He produced starter numbers for the week. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. Luke Hayden went 4 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs. If we can get that every outing from him, that changes the ball game. Jack Walker went 3 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs. If we can get that from him consistently, that changes things. I mean, we've got some of these young guys who put them in the right situation, and they have some great stuff that they can throw. And in fact, on the weekend plus, about 57% of innings pitched had 4 or fewer plate appearances. That thing I talked about a few weeks ago, where if you can't string together offense, you can't score runs, or it's much more difficult to score runs. This team's improving at that on the pitching side. They really are. It's largely home run driven, and the occasional kind of snowball inning, but they are largely getting the job done. I mean, based on what they've been doing, Rutgers isn't a nothing offense this year. They've been scoring runs in bunches, regardless of the quality of opponents. They've been scoring runs in absolute bunches, and they largely didn't up until that 3rd game. So I will absolutely give credit to the pitchers, because they are largely improving. There's a little bit, it's a gradual improvement, but they're getting there. And with as young as these pitchers largely are, that's huge. Might not.
Well, I think that's the huge point, Cass, is you look at the Cincinnati game, and until Sharp came in, so that's a total of what, 7.2 innings. 7.2 innings. The first 7.2 innings were covered by freshmen.
Yeah.
And that was only 2 of the 4 earned runs.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the earned runs was a little bit of a misplay. It was a freshman mistake out in left field, trying to go for the dive highlight reel play instead of just keeping the ball in front and keep it to a double. Now, would that one have gone on to score? Might have. There was a single walk and HBP later in that inning. But if you're already, if you've got someone on second as opposed to third, that might change things a little bit. You never know. But I'm not gonna ding him too hard on that triple, because it was not just. It was not a particularly well hit triple. It was a pretty well hit double that turned into a triple. So, but no, even if it's a little too late on the pitching staff development for this year, I mean, these guys are largely coming back. It's not a bunch of seniors. When we're talking about this many freshmen, none of them are draft eligible. And so, not saying that we're giving up on this season, we're writing it off, nothing like that. But if we can get these guys this kind of experience now, just think where they're going to be come the start of next season.
Well, I think it's also important to show that in 6 days, they managed to put together enough pitching to cover and win the 5th game, when all of them were competitive. Every one of these games was competitive.
Yes.
So there was no, okay, we're just going to give up, No. There wasn't any of that. And if for some reason somebody thought that was what was going on, Jack Walker proved them wrong.
Oh, absolutely. I was honestly more impressed with that than almost anything else, because we just haven't seen him a ton.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was the only situation in which you could possibly think that, oh, well, just kind of throwing in the towel. But even still, I wouldn't say that, given how this, I mean, it was a 2-run game. So there really wasn't any of that going on.
Right.
I mean, even if you go back to, it was it was a 3-run game, I guess, when it happened. So
Yeah.
no, that's with this offense. Just go back to Indiana State.
Right.
That was a four-run game that Indiana won. So
Yeah. No, the pitching staff absolutely competed this weekend.
But
To see
I
that
think
improvement.
I think that's important because that means, to some degree, I was almost into that. You know what? I don't even know if I want to see this team play in the Big Ten tournament, because I just don't know that they've got the pitching.
Yeah.
Well, now it looks like they may in fact have the pitching depth to be able to make a deep run in the Big Ten tournament if they can get there.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the big thing I'm going to talk about, is how do they get there?
Yes.
So I'll go ahead and get into that now. I've been really trying to dig into that because at this point, that is, if there is a result to go for this season beyond just the team developing, every game is a result opportunity. Me personally, I'm not a big one that really cares much about, winning season versus losing season. Do they get more wins than losses? But it would be nice to keep the streak the team has going, which may be, I didn't actually check this. I'm sorry. It might be the longest in the Big Ten right now for qualifying for the Big Ten tournament.
Could be.
I know there was some discussion about that a few years ago. But some major teams have missed that boat not that long ago, including Nebraska and Maryland. So, which first of all shows that it's not the end of the world to have a season where a team misses the Big Ten tournament. It's really not. It happens to all these teams. But kind of looking both historically and trying to take a look at the teams that Indiana is competing against, Indiana is currently tied for 10th place. The top 8 teams in the league by win percentage get an invite to the Big Ten tournament in Omaha. And I forgot what the stadium's called now. That might change tomorrow.
TD Ameritrade.
No, it's not anymore.
Oh no.
Yeah, they changed the naming rights this year. I just don't remember what it was to.
Oh, that's fun. I'm never gonna remember that.
So now I've gone back the last few times there have been a Big Ten tournament. I'm not going to say the last few years, because the last time there was a Big Ten tournament was 2019.
Yeah.
And the number 8 team had a 12-12 record. In 18, it was an 11-12 record. In 17, it was a 12-12 record. So pretty much has been kind of the minimum performance requires 11 wins. Often requires actually finishing with a 500 record. Indiana is currently 2-7. So what does the path forward look like if the goal is to get back to 500 in the conference? What does that path forward look like? And it's not easy. Because you got to somehow go 10-5 over this last set. And there are some tough series in here. Traveling to Michigan, hosting Illinois, and traveling to Iowa. Those 3 series are really going to be tough. So there's different ways to do that. The most basic way is to get 2-1 wins in all 5 of those series. Again, that's going to be tough, particularly I'd say. And I guess the good news, if that's the path, the good news is Illinois is coming to the part. But then if you go back and say, you know what, well, maybe that's too tall an ask to say that to win that to say that they're going to win that Illinois series. Well, then what do? Well, you trade that winning the Illinois series for sweeping the Minnesota series. Okay, that's legitimate. So you got to win the Nebraska series, lose the Illinois series, win the Michigan series. which I think is actually doable.
But losing that
Michigan-
Illinois series is losing it
2-1.
1-2.
No,
Right.
they
No sweeps.
cannot afford any sweeps. You cannot afford any sweeps. Not going to get to 500 and get swept again. That can't happen again.
No.
Yep, you say you've got the best team in the league swept you. You got to stop. You got to stop the bleeding there.
Yep.
So that's one path. The other path, I guess, is to try to sweep both Nebraska and Minnesota, which has the double effect of putting those two teams farther below. Because the key is you got to finish ahead of 5 teams.
Yes.
Nebraska is going to be a team competing against. So the Nebraska series is huge. So, for example, we talked about, well, maybe we could trade an Illinois series win for a sweep of Minnesota. Yeah, you can possibly do that trade, but you absolutely must win the Nebraska series. And boy, it would feel a lot better if that were in fact a sweep. I would not have been talking about the potential for sweeps a week or two ago, based on the pitching situation. But now that we know that there is some pitching depth there, maybe it's not an impossibility. Maybe it's not. I would not call it a likelihood, but it's not an impossibility at this point. But I mean, look at with Rutgers. Every one of those games was winnable. Every one of those games, Indiana was winning. And it wasn't like Indiana turned to a non-reliable pitcher.
No.
You just had a couple of guys who typically perform had a tough inning essentially. You had 3 guys who were guys that you have no qualms about going forward.
No,
that each had a tough inning, and those happen. That's really the part that's going to be it's hard to imagine with this staff that nobody is going to run into that. That's where sweeps are a little tricky to get, is that to get sweeps, you kind of need that pitching staff to just be rock solid an entire weekend. And that's I don't know if this team is quite there in that development, but if the offense, if conversely the other team has a particularly bad inning and the offense really jumps on it, maybe that'll help cover that up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If this offense can, if the offense can come out strong, we don't need world-beating pitching. We need consistent, decent pitching.
Yeah. And lots of strike throwing.
Yes. Yes.
Honestly, the like you said, the a bunch of solo home runs, not a massive issue.
Yeah.
Walk, hit by pitch, bomb, that's a problem.
Right. And but even then, like I was talking with my dad last night after the game, and I was raving about the pitching because the pitching had seemed very, very solid. With hey, they gave up just 4 runs and nothing really snowballed a ton. Largely got out of some jams. I hadn't even realized that we walked 7 guys. Like that, it hadn't seemed that bad because it didn't snowball, because it was, okay, leadoff walk, well, they're caught in a fielder's choice. Okay, leadoff walk who advances on a wild pitch, runs himself out at third on another walk, who gets forced out in a fielder's choice. Largely the walks did not score. Even the leadoff walks didn't score. Yeah. Like they controlled it. It was loss of 1 single at bat, not the loss of an inning.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
And what you've seen in the past has been exactly that. It's been where, okay, hit by pitch, then 4-pitch walk where the ball doesn't come anywhere near the strike zone. Now you've got 2 on, and then it's like, now got to get the ball in the strike zone, and then a BP fastball, 3-run bomb.
Not far off of what Cincy did in that 5th inning on the mound. that I think that's what threw me off, was seeing that on the offensive side and not seeing that on the pitching side. Statistically, it definitely skewed my viewpoint in the moment, but but that's the difference, is being able to control after that walk, and even the walks that were issued. Let's see, full count. That one was a 3-1. Full count 3-1. That was a 4-pitch walk. 3-1.
For the most part, you're talking about earned
3-1.
walks. You're not talking about what we've seen, which is 4 pitches that weren't anywhere near the strike zone.
Right. And
you're not talking about like the walks that have where a guy fouls the ball off 5 times, and law of numbers. Eventually, if the guy's fouling everything off, eventually he's going to get a pitch out of the zone if he can recognize it. And
with these kind, you tip your cap and okay, next guy, and you just move on. It's very different from when you are throwing nowhere near the zone. It's a completely different thing.
Yeah, because I'm right there with you. I never at any point with this team got that feeling that somebody has just completely and totally lost it. And we're used, and this year we've unfortunately been kind of used to seeing that.
Right.
That happens at some point. And they've really have added a bunch of pieces to the mix that are showing what they can do, and especially that group of true freshmen, Holderfield, Hayden, and Kraft. To be able to come in and do that, that was impressive.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, we do have another week of Big Ten Pick'em. Cass is pulling ahead now. Cass is taking the lead. 14-4 in her pick so far. What's your secret, Cass?
Well, I'm just gonna say my March Madness and similar tells me that this is not gonna last. I still remember the year that I was perfect through day 1 of March Madness, and then just all downhill from there. So, but really, it's a lot of looking at RPI and some of the metrics that feed into that. That's a lot of it.
All right. Well, what are your picks for this week?
Okay. Well, this week there were some comparatively easier picks, and then a few that were just, ugh. And the first one is one that I was like, oh, this is flip a coin, and that's how you pick it. I'm gonna give Rutgers the home field advantage over Iowa, but I think it's close. I'm only giving it because of home field. Rutgers just hasn't played anyone. And then I'm going Michigan over Ohio State. It's always tough picking those rivals, even when it's a year like this where it's like, yeah, Michigan really should win. When it's Michigan, Ohio State in any sport. And then I'm going Northwestern over Michigan State. Home field advantage there. Picking Penn State over Minnesota, because Minnesota and Penn State, hey, Penn State's served me well the last few weeks. And this one was really tough, but I'm going Maryland at Illinois.
All right. Well, I think you and I agreed on which were the tough ones. And what's great with that is I picked the other ones. I picked Iowa to go in and beat the number 1 Rutgers team in the Big Ten right now. I've got Iowa coming in and winning that series, and I do have Illinois fending off Maryland in Champaign. So, but I completely agree with you on the others. I've got Michigan, Northwestern, and Penn State. I mean, yes, I know Minnesota won a game against Maryland, and that kind of factored in my deciding that Illinois can beat Maryland in a series, but I'm not convinced that they can even at home can beat Penn State. So
Yeah, I'm not convinced that they can win 2 games in a weekend. So
now I'll say this, boy, if I was anybody else, if this was any other talking Big Ten baseball, the Indiana-Nebraska series would be a tough pick.
Oh, I don't even know how I would pick it like that. Oh,
not going to put anybody on the spot here, but we do not yet, because of situations, have Josh's and Chris's picks yet. I'm hoping to have those up on the site though before the Michigan-Ohio State series gets underway, which is going to start early tomorrow due to weather concerns. But we'll still be on the Big Ten Network.
I was going to say, how are they starting earlier than Rutgers? That
they weren't supposed to. That was a change. I saw it on Twitter. So, yeah. But apparently that they've got Big Ten Network to change too. So Big Ten Network is going to show that.
That's impressive. So. Heck, I'm just happy anytime they show baseball over spring football or classic replays, or I'm fine with them continuing to show that. Like, yep, I don't care about the time change. Still show baseball.
Yeah, but Josh is 1 series behind Cass at 13-5. I've got some ground to cover, so even if my 2 picks turn out, I'm only going to gain. I still won't have enough to catch Cass this week. Chris is a good 6 series behind Cass right now. He's 3 series behind me. So,
what happens when you pick Minnesota?
Yeah. Well, he's tried to find those surprising picks, and
he has.
And I've tried to find a couple of them, and it was going okay for me up until like last week. I think it was last week. Was it last week the one that really got me? Let me check this. Well, I mean, yeah. Cass, you aced last week, so that's the big thing. Congrats on you absolutely aced last week.
Don't know how.
5-0.
I didn't know that.
Well, my thing is, I got to stop picking Purdue. That's the biggest thing. That's what's burned me. I think half of my losses are Purdue. I got yeah.
Yes.
And you think you think Chris would be doing better based on the one that he kept harping on me for being, hey, they've only played high school teams.
Oh.
And I guess the other piece is I keep picking the teams that have beat Indiana, thinking that's
that means a ton this year.
That means a ton, which yeah.
So
far it has not.
In normal years, sure. This is, again, we've talked about it, with as much youth as there is on this team, you got to expect growing pains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I should have stuck with my gut all along that Illinois was going to be good. That was my gut at the beginning of the season. So, yeah, that's one of the toughest series for IU I'm looking at is the Illinois series.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
All right. Well, a couple more things that I wanted to cover. Josh had a comment that he made to me that I thought was very. If anybody saw the ESPN Plus broadcast of the Cincinnati game, it was quite interesting to listen to their announcers talk about it, because we kind of felt, Josh in particular felt that their analysis of IU's talent was actually pretty spot on, and talking about the fact that there is so many talented freshmen, and that the core talent of the team is so strong. And that, once these pieces get put together, this is going to be a really good baseball team. And to Cass's point, that may not be until the 2023 season, but this is going to be a really good baseball team. It's not impossible. It's going to be a really good baseball team in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it may not need to be a really good baseball team to do well this weekend.
Yeah.
Depending on, because Nebraska hasn't been playing fantastic.
Yeah. In the same way that Indiana hasn't been Indiana, Nebraska hasn't been Nebraska.
Right. And and this happens, and in the Big Ten especially, there's these periods where you have where the where you've lost well, the whole set of circumstances,
Mhm.
the change in coaching, the really good veteran group that was together in 19 to win that Big Ten title. And we talk about the fact that the starting rotation went pro.
Yeah.
All drafted in the top 10 rounds last year. But keep in mind, only 2 years before, the entire starting rotation went pro. 2 drafted, 1 signed. All who are which are still, and these aren't just, they're all still on attached to pro teams. So
Yeah.
that's not happened once. That's happened twice since Mercer has been coach here.
Mhm.
And
there's absolutely nothing bad about that. There's nothing inherently bad about that. That's a good thing.
And the expectation is that's going to continue. I mean, the expectation is that Jack Perkins will hear his name called, whether it's this year or next year. That's going to happen.
And Bremer at his best. Bremer at his best is great.
Yeah, and then you look at that group freshman yesterday: Holderfield, Hayden, and Kraft. That is a huge talented group. And then you look at some of the more veteran talent that are starting to figure out what they need to do. And I think particularly Reece Sharp, because he has such a talented arm.
Yep.
Great velo, amazing spin rate. He's starting to figure it out. And some of his numbers haven't been fantastic this past week, but I think to your point, a lot of that is just he's had to throw a lot of innings. And overall, that's really good for this whole team.
Oh yeah. But for him, as he's see. And now I'm curious, and I have my scorecards right in front of me. Where is it? This one? Yeah, this one. That the 2 home runs that he gave up in the 9th against Rutgers. One of those was second time through the order, and the last one was actually his third time, the start of his third time through the order. And that's a lot to put on him right now. Yeah. At this point,
he's not used to being that extended, and that's and especially with really good offenses like that get you get used to seeing a guy.
Yep.
I really like myself, if they can really get all the pieces in place, I'd really like to see Reece Sharp be that guy to close the door. That's just my personal opinion. Just because and it's nothing against Braden Tucker. I love the way Braden Tucker competes. And I'm perfectly happy with that. But my thought there is, if we're a way to take that combination of what Tucker has brought from a competition perspective, and combine that with the stuff that Sharp has, find a way to get that combination going to produce a guy who can, to where feel like a lead halfway through the 8th inning is an almost guaranteed win.
Yeah. And honestly, overall, as a general rule, at least, I would be much more comfortable, I guess, seeing Tucker have some more extended outings than Reece right now. I think Reece 2 innings and done, maybe cap him 1 time through the order or so, and he is phenomenal, borderline unhittable. And so and Tucker,
Braden can really can pitch and work through, and he can work through multiple times through the order. I mean, heck, he was in the back end of a no-hitter last year. So.
Right. So Yeah, something like that would be great. Again, so much of it is finding the right spots for the right guys at the
Yeah.
right times. And when
Yeah.
you bring in this many new faces, it's a little bit of a guessing game to start out.
Yes.
And we're starting to finally get those puzzle pieces into place.
Yeah. And every one of these pieces has had to find a way to develop. They've all had struggles. Every one of them has had a struggle. But what's nice is every one of them has made strides from that struggle. And many of them even just within the past week.
Yeah.
So Grant Holderfield, he had that one bad inning, but he got
there was the error in that inning that really didn't help anything. Yeah.
But Grant has, he gave 2 solid innings there. Luke Hayden has had multiple struggles at trying to be able to stay in games, and to see him go 4 innings, that was huge.
Yes.
From a growth perspective, what Ty Bothwell has, the roller coaster ride he's gone on and what he's managed to do. It got to the point where he was not able to throw to multiple batters without just walking people.
Yeah.
And now he's at the point at which he covered 7 innings in a week.
Yeah.
So
and did it
and
well.
covered them very well.
Yeah.
So they got options going forward, and above all else, I think it just shows that they've got a huge opportunity to win baseball games. Just now at this point, it's just you take one baseball game at a time. You go take Friday night.
Yep.
There's a beautiful weekend coming to Bloomington. And win or lose, a warm day at the BART is a fun day. So
yes.
I think the biggest thing, the only thing really we can do as fans, and I know Cass can't because you're too far away, but many of us who are listening to this podcast can get out to the BART and convince your friends to get out to the BART, because there's no question that Indiana can win baseball games, and just going to the BART is so much fun. So that's the biggest thing I'm looking forward to, is just going to see some baseball in some nice weather, hoping that there's 2,000 plus fans, and just having a great weekend.
Hey, I'm just thrilled that it's a 6 o'clock Central Time start, because that makes my life so much easier. I like as it starts to warm up, and the Friday nights can get a little late. I like that. Yep.
Well, it's time to hand out some hardware, and Chris has actually delegated that to Cass and I. So we've got the
that's dangerous.
We've got some. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start. I'm gonna start because I of course picked the ridiculously easy one. The Joey Donato Award. Well, again, ridiculously easy. Jack Perkins, 7 innings, only 3 hits, gave up 1 earned run, walked 3, struck out 8.
Yep.
Win 120 pitches. That was just that's ace stuff. That's that absolute ace stuff that and did this against the best team in the Big Ten.
Yep.
So and when this is in a week of a lot of really good performances. There were obviously, as we said, there were obviously 4 losses on the week, but usually those were kind of one bad inning here and there. But there were a ton of good performances. We talked about them. We talked about what Ty Bothwell did with 7 innings over 2 games. We talked about what Luke Hayden did. I mean, Luke kind of gave Perk a bit of a run. I can't put Luke's 4 innings above Perk's 7.
Yep.
And in a midweek versus the weekend game, and how important that was. Granted, Luke got a win, so that was Luke got the 1 win, so that was one thing that was in his cap.
Yeah, but that was nothing
I'm
against
imagining
Perkins.
that over the course of the next few years, Luke Hayden is gonna win his share of red belts.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think those are
agree.
coming. I think
Yes.
those are coming. But right now the ace is Jack Perkins, and that's his. Okay, Cass, I'll hand it to you to talk about the other two.
Okay. Well, for the Tony Butler Award, I will say we do kind of have to eliminate the Miami, Ohio game because none of us could see anything. We could just hear it, and it's a lot harder to pick the defensive stuff when you're only listening. Believe me, that's been my life 2 states over for quite a while now. It's hard to pick them out. But one of the plays that stood out, and we're going to give it for that, was Brock Tibbetts ranging back into, I mean, technically shallow right field to get a pop-up that A, he had no business getting to, but B, it held tremendous potential for a just horrible freshman rookie mistake. And he got it done. He did his job. He secured it, and that was actually an inning ender with runners on first and second. So we're going to give it to Brock for that. And then the Alex Dickerson Award is going to go to another freshman, Carter Matheson. He hit 2 home runs on the week, including I would have to double check, but I am about 99% sure that was the first grand slam for the Hoosiers since 2019. That was very welcome to see, especially at that point in the game. And he also had 9 RBI on the week, thanks in part to that nice grand slam. So that's Perkins for the Donato Award, Tibbetts for the Butler Award, and Matheson for the Dickerson Award.
And we just keep talking about the true freshmen.
Yes.
And there's not been a year since I've closely followed the team that we've been talking this significantly about a core of freshman players.
Yep. And especially at this point, this kind of tends to be the point where it kind of catches up to the freshmen a little bit. They start to struggle a little bit more. They start to make more mistakes, but these guys largely haven't.
Yep. I mean, you've seen a few hiccups there. You've already seen a couple slumps that they've come out of, that some of these guys have come out of. So,
yep.
I think we've got a lot of positives heading into the back half of the season. The things that we're typically talking about, though, trying to see, hey, can they get a regional bid, that kind of thing. Yeah, we're not having those conversations from a results perspective, but from a development perspective and the future of the program perspective, I dare say I'm actually more confident now than I was 3 months ago.
Yep, absolutely.
Because kind of the thought was, I had been obviously hoping for a lot more pitching consistency. I thought this team was going to have more pitching consistency. I did not think the offense was going to be this good. I didn't think the freshmen were going to be this good. I didn't think the pitching was going to be dominant. I just thought it wasn't going to be giving up quite anywhere near this many free bases.
Yep.
That's not been the identity of Indiana pitching.
Yeah.
And I think we're starting to see a little bit more of the Indiana pitching culture that we're used to over the course of these last 5 games. Mm-hmm. Really 6 games. I think we're starting to see more of that culture. There's still a ton of work to do. But there's nothing that tells me that there's no game on the schedule, including the series with Illinois, including the game at Louisville. There's none of these games that I would circle and say, nope, Indiana can't win this.
Yeah.
Indiana can win. It can compete to win every single game that's on their schedule.
Yep.
And, hey, all the pieces fit together. The little things that have, to some degree, frankly, bad luck that has hit them over the course of that last series. That stuff turns the right way, and maybe 10-5 down the stretch is not, in the Big Ten, is not entirely impossible. And maybe this team gets another chance a week in Omaha, a chance to prove what they really can do in front of the whole conference. Maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah.
But the first step of that is clearly going to be to take on Nebraska at the BART. Beautiful weather. If I haven't mentioned that like 15 times, please come out. Cass, anything else we need to cover before we head out?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, that will do it for this edition of Talking Hoosier Baseball. Hopefully we will be able to get Chris and Josh back on at some point. They've just had a lot of other things pop up at the last minute. So we wish them well, and they will hopefully be back with us here really soon. And above all else, hey, come out to Nebraska. We'll see you at the BART.